What's going on, guys? It's Jeff, and today I'm going to explain to you why, after watching the Super Bowl unfold last night between the Chiefs and the Eagles ultimately dominating the Chiefs, why I believe the biggest loser is Brad Holmes of the Detroit Lions, and I'm going to explain why. Before you overreact and say, what do you mean he's a loser? Well, failed opportunities. That's where it starts with me. And you look at the importance last night of a defensive line and how important that is. And I understand that this year there were a ton of injuries. That's not the point I'm making. And I'm not also going to discredit Brad Holmes as a general manager. He's a top 5 GM in the league. He's one of the best GMs in the NFL. There is no debating that. So I want to make sure that's very clear where I'm coming from with that. The real thing for me is I'm looking at this Eagles defensive line and this Eagles defense, quite frankly. And I've seen the job Howie Roseman's done in the draft, not just over the last 10, 15 years because he's been a GM for a long time, but I'm looking at most recently and how some of the players that he's drafted not only has had an immediate impact, similar to a Brian Branch when Brad Holmes drafted him, but more specifically, guys on the defensive line and how important that is to winning a Super Bowl. And if you're an NFL fan, you've seen it. Mahomes, Tom Brady, those guys are obviously the biggest contributing factors, but even to beat a guy like Patrick Mahomes, you see the importance. You need a great defense. Jalen Hurts said it himself after the game yesterday. Defense wins championships. And the Detroit Lions, through the first 4 years now, have not put together a great defense. Now, this year before the injuries, they were fine. But if you're going to tell me that a healthy Lions defense is better than the Eagles defense, I can't agree with you. The biggest thing for me, it starts after they went 8-2. You go into the next year, that's the 12-5 year, and you look at what they were as a team. Historic offensively. You had Jared Goff playing some of his best football. You had contributing rookies right away, which was great, but you didn't take anyone on the defensive line until you drafted Broderick Martin that year. So Broderick Martin was a third-round pick, and besides that, you didn't take any defensive linemen. You go into the year, and what's the biggest issue? Finding someone on the other side of Aiden. That was a consistent issue, and it was still an issue. And then you go out, you face the 49ers in the NFC Championship game, and you lose a 17-point lead. And yeah, are there contributing factors in that game besides just not having a pass rusher B to Aiden Hutchinson? Sure. But if you had a guy like Danielle Hunter, who was available at the deadline, who we all agreed that they should have went and gotten, to me, it would have been a different story. And to me, that's a missed opportunity. A missed opportunity. Broderick Martin, fast forward, he's a bust. That's what he is right now. And that draft class, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell, Sam Laporta, Brian Branch, all great players. But how have they helped this team on the defensive line? Little to none. And again, it's not discrediting those players, but it's the reality of the NFL. You need a good defense, and it starts up front, dominating in the trenches, which Brad Holmes, when he first got to Detroit, he prioritized that. You drafted Penei. You drafted Aleem. You drafted Levi in the second round, and he's a bust. But the following year, you take Aiden Hutchinson. You draft Josh Paschal, who's a bust. So besides Aiden, he hasn't really drafted a defensive end that, let alone, has been a very good player, but even a solid player. I mean, Josh, at this point, you'd say solid, but what is he doing for you? Nothing. And that's still the biggest issue. So you lose that game in the NFC Championship game, and you follow it up the following year. Fast forward to the offseason, you sign Marcus Davenport, which I think we can all agree was a player that suffered from injuries consistently. And what happened? He got injured. So we knew how that story was going to end. So again, another failed opportunity. So Aiden goes down. You have Aleem McNeil by himself, essentially, with DJ Reader, who I will say, DJ Reader, it's a good signing. But again, it doesn't help you when it comes to getting after the quarterback. So after Aiden went down and Davenport went down, you are screwed. This team is heavily Aiden dependent, and I'm sorry. You need more than that. Like the Eagles drafted Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith in the first round last year. Or I guess not last year, but the prior year. Look at them. Immediately impactful. Immediately getting after quarterbacks. Productive. That's what the league is. And the Lions, Brad Holmes specifically, has not addressed that successfully. He just hasn't. I can give you guys he's drafted on the defensive line, but it'll be a lot of underwhelming players. And that's my problem. It's not the offense, which is historic. And again, Jared's playing his best football of his entire career. It's not the offensive line. It's the defensive line. And to me, that's why the Myles Garrett thing is so loud right now, because obviously a guy like Myles Garrett would help you a ton, but it's not even about trading for these guys. It can be through the draft, but you have to prioritize positions specifically closer to the football, but guys that can get after quarterbacks. You watch Mahomes yesterday in disarray, running for his life. And again, it makes the job for the guys on the back end a lot easier. That's the biggest excuse, right? Well, Terran Arnold didn't have a defensive line. Well, go back a year. If Terran Arnold was playing on that team that was 12-5 that year, he still wouldn't have a defensive line besides Aiden Hutchinson. So it's still a problem. Like, that's my biggest thing for the Lions to learn is going forward. Not only do you have to prioritize this defensive line, whether it's through the draft, whether it's through free agency, you have to be able to rush four. When you're rushing four and getting pressure, it gives you a huge advantage, right? It gives the guys on the back end a huge advantage. So that's where I was coming from with the tweet I had today. And people took it, and ran with it, accusing me of calling Brad the worst GM. It's not even about Brad. He's a great GM. But can we all agree where he's lacked is finding the answer to this question? Who's helping Aiden Hutchinson? Nobody. They don't have an answer on the other side. And to me, you're going into year 5, that's a massive problem. Like, it just is. And we've seen Brad draft guys and turn around a position. He's failed to do it with the defensive line. He just has. And you can't take projects anymore either. That's a huge issue. Because when you take guys that are projects, especially a Broderick in the 3rd, a Giovanni Manu in the 4th, what did they do for you? Nothing. When you have injuries, those guys can't come in and help you. Broderick Martin is no help. He played when DJ Reader went down in year 2 and looked awful. So it's the projects, which are looking at what the Eagles do. And of course, they're going to be successful. I mean, you look at this year, Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean were 2 very important pieces, the first round pick, second round pick, that helped them win a Super Bowl, along with that defensive line. But in which you go back a year prior, Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith, both in the first round. Both are key players on that team. The year prior, Jordan Davis, key player. And again, Aiden Hutchinson obviously is that key player. But my point is, and Ali McNeil's a fine player. Okay, he's good. He's a good player. But they don't have much besides Aiden, and that's a fact. So whether you bring back Za'Darius or not, Za'Darius to me is not enough. They need game breakers. They need guys that can wreck a game. They went out and paid for Bryce Huff. Right? They have talent everywhere, and they're all in money-wise. They go out and pay Saquon. It's not about going all in and trading all these picks, but it's finding a healthy mix of both, knowing when to be aggressive, right? Isn't the goal to win a Super Bowl? That is the overall defining goal. You win a Super Bowl, that's it. And you can talk about another one after that. We have to stop treating this thing like it's sustained success, as in, let's win a couple Super Bowls. Let's just get one first. And to me, getting one, to get there, you need help on the defensive line. You need this defense to be very good. You just do. And even if the defense was healthy this year, would the game against the Eagles, would it have been a good game? I believe so. I still would have gave it to the Eagles because they are the better roster. They have the best defense in the league. They have Saquon Barkley. They have the best offensive line in the league. Like, they've built their roster. It's well constructed. But that's my point, is going and trading for Donovan Peoples-Jones at the deadline. What does that do for you? Nothing. And it took Aiden going down to go get Za'Darius Smith. Like, go make a move. Okay, whether that's through the draft or that's through trades or that's through free agency, you need help. And that's my biggest point on this Monday, is what the Lions need to do to get to the next level. And in my opinion, it starts up front. The Lions have it on offense. They don't have it on defense. Help out those guys on the back end. It's the most important takeaway for me watching the Super Bowl. But what do you guys make of it? Agree or disagree? Comment down below. I'll try to read as many as I can, because people are going to feel emotional and overreact, and that's fine. But if you disagree, tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me why the defensive line is the key, is the cog in this engine for me getting a Super Bowl. And really just up front on both sides of the ball. You saw the importance of it. The Chiefs couldn't protect Mahomes. The Eagles could protect Hurts. The Eagles got after Mahomes, and the Chiefs couldn't get after Hurts. It's very simple. It really is. And obviously, there's other things that go along with it, but come on, guys. Comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. We will be live tonight, 8 to 10 p.m., so I will see you then. We'll have more discussion about the importance of everything I'm discussing and much more. But until then, I will catch you all. Hey, what's going on there? It's Jeff Iafrate. Appreciate you for finishing the video. You can check out one of the videos here suggested or show support by commenting, liking, and subscribing. And buy your merchandise, officialctsports.com.